does your dad do?
He does diving.
He does diving. What does that mean? Does it mean he goes in the ocean every day?
He goes on the boat sometimes.
Yeah. And what does he see when he goes in the ocean?
He sees a lot of fish, coral, anemones.
Anemones?
Clams.
What else does he see? Did he take people into the water?
He teaches people.
Yeah.
He teaches people diving.
Yeah. And does he teach people how to look after the corals as well?
They clean up the reef too.
Really? What do they do when they clean up the reef?
They pick up garbage.
And what do they do with it afterwards, do you know?
They put it in the reef garbage.
Yeah. They look after it so it's not hurting the reef there, does it? Yeah. And do you think grown-ups can do more stuff to make sure that everything's not clean and... What do you say is the major difference between being on Koh Tao?
I feel alive here. I feel having a life.
Yeah.
And not just being a little tiny screw in the whole system. A little tiny wheel that's turning with the whole system. I'm an individual on my own, and I'm living my life, the life that I decided to live.
Koh Tao, when I first came, was strictly like it was a hippie island. Everybody who came here was a hippie. That's all they came to do was to hang out. Diving was so secondary to everything. I think the first time I came here, I spent almost 6 weeks not even diving on Koh Tao. And it was like small little paths everywhere, a lot of jungle, no electricity. At that time, there was maybe 2 boats a week to the island, there and back. So yeah, it was very, very different.
At 8 o'clock in the evening, the lights went out and everybody went to bed, and there was nothing. This was a desert island with one little shop and a few huts, and that's about it.
I would say it became from a hippie island to something what we call now a very professional diving island, right? Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago, the people calling themselves backpackers, they had tattoos and long beards and CC top long hair. Yeah, so they were a different kind of customer range than we have right now. Backpackers right now more the ones that finish university, young people, right? They travel the world before they actually start working and getting serious with their life. So let's say the age dropped as well immensely in this case of the people visiting Koh Tao right now. But it's still a backpacker island.
I think we all kind of call it home because we feel like our family lives here, really. Whenever people go home on holiday, they always say, oh, I'm coming home soon, which is coming back to Koh Tao rather than going back to where they live. So we're I would say one big happy family. Not always, not always. People have their little fallouts here and there. Altogether, I think we're all here for a reason, which is because we love the lifestyle. It's hot and sunny and happy, and even if you're having a really bad time, you can just go down to the beach at sunset, have a nice cold beer and look out across the ocean, and nothing is ever that bad. It's always going to make you feel better.
Where do we live? Where is it that we live?
Koh Tao.
Koh Tao.
Franklin said that.
Franklin said Koh Tao. And what do you like about Koh Tao?
It's because it has a lot of sun and no snow, because I hate cold.
Yeah. And do you like the sea?
No.
No?
I like the pool.
You like the pool? But do you like the fishes as well?
Yeah, I do too.
It's a right mixture. It's a right mixture between good restaurant, good bars, good nightlife, and also nice beaches. Also quiet beaches still, even if it gets busier and busier every year. But we still have to just sit on the motorbike for 10 minutes and we are on the beach on our own. and I think this is the unique part of Koh Tao.
So already as a visitor here, you already have this warm feeling, and that's what I think the island gives. It's just this warm feeling of comfort that people really enjoy, and that's what keeps them coming back, year after year.
I came here to work with a non-profit group originally, and after that I decided I just fell in love with the island after basically one day. I knew I wanted to live here. So after I started working with the non-profit, then I started to do my own conservation projects within one of the dive schools, and then subsequently bringing that out to all the dive schools, what we were doing in that one dive school, through the Save Koh Tao group. So for about the last 4.5 years now, we've also been working through the Save Koh Tao group with many of the dive schools here on the island for conservation, social, environmental type projects.
You can't stop the growth of an island. This island belongs to the Thais, and they live here, they grew up here, and they also want prosperity like everybody wants. And they get prosperity through us coming here and spending money. So it's part of the natural development, I guess. Any place where tourists go for the first time, within years many people will go there because it's a nice place, obviously.
When we first started, we had 6 dive schools sign up. It was Bands, Big Blue, Blacktip, Crystal, New Heaven, and Sunshine, which are some of the schools that are most involved in Save Koh Tao on a regular basis. Since that time, we've also had a few other dive schools like Master Divers and New Way and Montelay decide that they wanted to join up as well, so we're working with those dive schools to also integrate them into this program. And then in the last few years, they've been trying to integrate a lot more with foreigners living on the island, with the Burmese working on the island. And so we do monthly projects, things like grass plantings and artificial coral nurseries and cleanups, those types of things. And sometimes we may get 150 to 250 people coming to join up from all different types of backgrounds, but everybody who's here on the island, and maybe for a day, maybe for 10 years, but loves the place and wants to give something back. So it's just kind of a loose association of people who really want to do good here on the island. And we have 3 branches. We have the education branch, working with the local school. We have the land conservation branch that deals with a lot of the rubbish, recycling, wastewater. And then we have the marine branch, which deals with the marine education, research, and restoration.
And I think if you're in the service industry such as tourism, diving industry in particular, the one that we're doing here, then it's just common sense really to to have conservation activities going on. I mean, we all use the resources from the ocean, so I think it's, like I said, common sense just to go down and to do a little bit of protection, giving something back as well as taking.
The last 3 days have been very interesting few days for us in Save Koh Tao. We got a phone call 3 days ago that the Marine Fisheries Department had caught an illegal fishing boat within our island. So there's a protected area where nobody's allowed to fish, and that boat was found about 30 to 40 meters inside that protected zone. Police had gone into the Fisheries Department and arrested the captain and the crew of the boat, and also found some drugs on board. And they decided that they wanted to make an example of this guy and go around and take up a lot of his cages and get that on film.
What actually transpired was that we went to a local fishing boat which had been caught illegally fishing in the area. There were a number of representatives from all sorts of local community groups, which included the Mayor of Koh Tao, representatives from Save Koh Tao, including Pikeng and Chad Scott, representatives from the local fisheries department. This was the initial exploration of what actually the extent of the problem was. It was a little bit disappointing in the first instance because the fisherman had actually taken us back to cages that he had obviously emptied recently. So there was only a few fish in there, but after a little bit more pressure from the local community, the fisherman actually took us to a 3rd cage, which was extremely full. It was one of those things, it was kind of extremely distressing to see and quite empowering to know that the community had come together to actually make this statement about what was acceptable within, the protected areas of Koh Tao.
มันมีความสำคัญมากนะครับจริงๆทรัพยากรทั้งหมดที่เรามีอยู่ในทะเลนะมันเกิดจากธรรมชาตินะครับไม่ใช่ได้มีว่าชาวบ้านหรือผู้ประกอบการคนไหนเป็นผู้สร้างขึ้นมาฉะนั้นเราประมาณค่าเขาไม่ได้ฉะนั้นผมบอกว่าเราต้องมีการอนุรักษ์นะครับอนุรักษ์ ปกป้องทรัพยากรอันล้ำค่าตรงนี้ให้ถึงชั่วลูกชั่วหลานแล้วก็ถ้าตราบใดที่เรายังมีทรัพยากรที่สมบูรณ์แบบนะครับผมเชื่อว่าจะเกิดประโยชน์ต่อชาวบ้านเกาะเต่าและผู้ประกอบการเกาะเต่านะครับในอนาคตข้างหน้านะครับ
It was quite distressing because there was a number of eskies, frozen containers containing a huge amount of fish, including fish that weren't really suitable for eating. They included school filefish, triggerfish. There was a huge amount of rabbitfish on board. They had cobia, they had groupers actually in the bilge tank. So there were some fish that were still alive, but the vast majority were dead.
Do we want to be the ones who knew what had to be done but did nothing?
So the impact from these fish nets, one of the major ones actually whether they're indiscriminate where they throw them as well. They're indiscriminate catches, but they're also indiscriminate in their location. Now they're not as excessively damaging as a large trawl net, but the local fishermen can't get away with that within a marine park boundary. The one big problem with these is that because they are so indiscriminate on the reef, they can pull a lot of reef fish over to actually get inside the trap, and a lot of benthic invertebrates such as hermit crabs that would not be caught in a standard gill net or something like that along the reef because they're actually reef-dwelling fish. Now if you remove these from the environment, one of their general purposes in the ecology or the ecosystem of the reef is to clean. They're part of a lot of them are algivores, so they specifically clean algae off surfaces, which allows coral settlement and coral growth. Some are corallivores, so they actually eat sections of the coral, which allows for renewal of the coral succession and also develops coral immunity. So they keep the system rolling. And the big ones of these are the rabbitfish, the butterfly fish, to a degree the parrotfish as well. And they will all just move into the traps. You see a lot of these traps, they're full of huge schools of surgeonfish as well, actually, a classic algivore, that just move in schools and they catch the entire school and yank it off the reef. Now that removal from the system will then, with high nutrient loading, which somewhere like Koh Tao will have with the amount of humans living on the island, cause potentially an increase in algal growth, which means that the coral settlement thereafter won't be as high, and you'll start having a degradation of the reef. You'll start seeing algal development more and more and more. And once it's set a foothold, then the coral finds it very, very hard to get in, break into the system. The removal of the benthic invertebrates as well, these are detritivores, they clean the reef, they clean all the material that's sort of lying on the bottom and underneath, allow that to recycle into the system, that nutrient recycling into the actual coral reef system. And they're absolutely worthless to the fishermen, they just catch them anyway. Occasionally you get large pelagics, sometimes you see cobia or larger schools of things like batfish, which do have an important place on the reef, but because they're more pelagic species they would have been caught by nets anyway. The real impact is the smaller fish, the little butterfly fish, the surgeonfish, those coral associated or benthos associated schools that would not actually have been removed otherwise.
It just shows that Koh Tao is just like the small example of planet Earth in general. We do have more and more problems with drinking water all around the world as well, with clean water in this case. But yes, we do inhabit more and more land, so we do cut more rainforest down, and we're devastating our planet right now, and we don't slow down. Even if we talk smartly about it in television, there's no action really done, right? So the coral reefs, scientists reckon in this case, we're going to lose 70% of that in the next 30 years. And for people like me, living from the ocean and really appreciating the beauty of the water as well, it's devastating to hear those news.
You can talk about your car, you can talk about your BMW, you can talk about your 15-bedroom house mansion, you can talk about your gold, your jewels, your boob job, whatever you're doing with your life. What people are missing in the first world, and I think this is also what gives people on Koh Tao a very unique insight into some of the truths that have to be said. We all come from that first world and we respect it and we love it and we love our family. But what people in the first world miss is the way the human race at the moment is treating our planet is nothing short of the general whole story is an unpriced, unchecked sewer.
If we don't slow it down, we're going to have a very bleak, right, future ahead of us in our lifetime, right? sure then the generations after following us, I mean, they're going to say, hey, if you knew all that, why you didn't do anything about that? Now our planet is wrecked, it's not to repair anymore, right?
And then you can go on with all the other stuff, deep sea trawling, dynamite fishing, general pollution. The darkest of all, for me, shark finning. Next to drugs, shark finning is the darkest, most twisted, most greed-driven, evil, it has to be said, it can't be polite on this one. Evil, rancid, dark, twisted, most incorrect way human beings treat this earth. And again, why I say this is because the people on Koh Tao that do this have that insight because they've dove with the whale shark, they've dove with the great reef shark. To then watch shark water, for an example, and see a whale shark chopped up for $10,000 for its tail, the lump you get in your chest here, and anyone watching this knows me, it's tearing you out from inside. It's pulling everything out from inside of you. And you cannot imagine that human beings do this to such a magnificent creature. And again, short history lesson. 450 million years sharks have been here, 125 million years longer than the dinosaurs, survived 5 major extinctions. In a word, my man, architects of the world we live in today. There's no discussion or debate. You don't have to be a historian or a great person who studied paleontology, but if you read just a tad about sharks and understand what they've done for this planet, I don't think anyone would even allow another shark to even be killed. But if something doesn't break there, something stop here, this is another catastrophe just waiting to happen, along with all the other stuff. And I don't know all the answers, but I do know this full circle. Again, linking to all the stuff we spoke a little bit earlier about the uniqueness of living here. It's a unique opportunity for people like us to be able to give these stories and these experiences coming from the first world to the people that come to Koh Tao and have a holiday and do a dive course.
Yeah, I hope I'm not one of those people who has to say I didn't do anything about it, right? I will do at least my small part I can do, right? By spreading awareness, participating on certain projects as well in the future, right?
Pretty much the systems, they drop the cages. There's various methods according to the region, and they're wire cages with wooden supports, and they have a narrow opening at a certain point, and they generally bait them with dead fish or bycatch from a previous catch and just leave them down there for an extended period of time, and the passing fish in the area just go through standard, sort of like an oversized lobster pot pretty much. They go through the narrow opening, then they can't find their way out again. The divers or the boat, depending on their collection method, come back at a later date. The smaller cages, they actually run ropes down, especially in areas where they're not supposed to be dropping them. They don't want to mark them with buoys. So they run 2 cages together with a rope, and then they triangulate where the rope will be lying, and they drop a hook and drag it along the bottom until it hooks the rope, and then they just yank the entire thing up, and both cages come up together. Other methods that have been used in areas where they're not supposed to be using them, as they drop down one of the fishermen on basically a hook or a hose pipe connected to a basic compressor they have on the boat. They jump down, identify the cage, attach a line or a grapple to it, and they just yank it up individually. So pretty much you've got these large cages that are indiscriminate by whatever chooses to move into them, and then they pull them up to the surface and take whatever they want to sell from it, and then everything else that's bycatch they reuse for bait or just throw back in the ocean later on.
It was quite interesting watching crew members, the crew member that was actually assisting with the raising of the cages. It's something that we very rarely see here on Koh Tao, because obviously we're recreational divers and we have very strict and stringent safety standards to adhere to. But this guy was diving on compressed air, so there was a compressor which was pumping air through just through a hose pipe, which he attached. He had a mask and he attached just into his mouth and held on with his teeth, and that was the way that he was breathing his air. Whereas we would use buoyancy control devices and all of those kind of things, he literally just jumped in and swam, and he was diving to depths of maybe 30 metres to retrieve the cages. So that process was quite an intriguing one to actually observe.
We returned to many of the sites with the fishing boat captain and with the fisheries department, the local government, the mayor of Koh Tao, and some others from the Save Koh Tao group and community to go and pull up some of the cages. And we realized very quickly that when they pull up these cages, it's very, very fast rate of ascent. And most of the fish within the cages come up with bloated stomachs, and they end up dying very quickly. So we decided that we wouldn't go around and pull up the rest of the cages, but what we'd do is go and locate them and send divers down to go and cut the nets.
You know, over the last 5 or 6 years we've been doing this kind of activities, proven very educational. It's also a very self-satisfying way to do some kind of work, and also it's very enjoyable as well.
Just making that initial discovery can open an entirely new, or it definitely will open a new chapter in your life. And then how far you want to go with it is up to you. It is literally, there's no end to what you can do underwater. And guaranteed, the more you do it, the more you're going to want to do it. It becomes quite addictive, you know, if you don't do it for a while, you're kind of itching to get back in the water. I think it's something about just, you know, going under the surface. It's just the breathing and the bubbles and the fishies and stuff like that.
Diving is always about a feeling. It's not just what you see underwater, and I think anybody who's been diving for a long time, it is just the feeling of being underwater, that calmness, that relaxation, that just one in the water and just your body just going up and down and the feel of it, it's amazing. And I think if people continue to dive, what you see is the added bonus of just being able to enjoy being underwater.
So I think you have to understand the ocean actually to as well be able to connect with the creatures down there. Most of them, sure, we call fish, but we have also mammals down there. Dolphins, they very, very much connect with us humans underwater anyway, right? We do know that. I think if you have a feeling for nature in general and you do love nature, nature feels that you are one of those people, that you're connected to nature as well, and let you interact differently with nature in general, right?
Normally with our group we try to remain purely positive. We try to only do positive projects that benefit everybody. So normally we're working with the fishermen, or trying to increase the fisheries stock rather than attacking the fishermen. But this time, since it came from the fisheries department that they wanted these nets cut, as divers we were all very, very happy to go and do that job. When we got down there, we would see looked to be 100 fish in there, some of them up to 1.5 meter long cobias and stingrays and other things that we always really enjoy seeing when we're diving. So to see them in the cage is at first very heartbreaking, but to be able to be the ones that go and get to cut that cage and free those fish is very, very rewarding. And everybody on our boat today was very enthusiastic and happy to have done that job today. We didn't want them to be able to go back and take the cages back up again and just repair them real quickly. And so what we did is broke up the cages with saws, with trying to pull the nails out, pull the wood pieces apart. We leave the cages down there because when they're completely closed, they're a threat to the fish. But when they're open and the fish can swim in and out, they actually become a bit of a fish nursery. So a lot of the little fish and things will actually live in and around those, and larger fish will aggregate around them. And so for a period of a few years, they actually act as a substrate and habitat for marine life. The alternative would be to bring them up onto the island, where then we have to bring them on the mountain and burn them. So we just opted to just destroy them, make them unusable, and leave them in place.
Personally, myself, I like to, as an instructor, promote Project Aware and also the Save Koh Tao Foundation, because Save Koh Tao is our Project Aware for our island. Living here and working on this island, that's the main goal, is to make sure it's preserved so that we have people coming back, and so that the island can sustain itself and keep these beautiful reefs and oceans and the land. One thing with Save Koh Tao, I think, from our school point of view, is the contribution of all the instructors and also the students. We raise money by little things like refilling bottled water, and as a donation the customers will put 10 baht towards Save Koh Tao, or electrolytes, replacing, electrolytes, purchasing them to be able to put money towards the foundation. Save Koh Tao has provided a lot for each of the schools with the different types of artificial reefs, and also the Thai Navy that has come in to help bring out that beautiful wreck that we have now, to take people away from the reefs that we have today, like in Piwi, and they can go to the Satakut wreck and enjoy a nice wreck dive. Project Aware itself is the similar effect, protecting the sharks and about marine debris. So together with the marine debris and the way that we do cleanups every month with Save Koh Tao, it's fantastic because we're promoting awareness, not just to the local people, but also to everyone that's coming onto the island. And the same with Save Koh Tao here, we do a lot of festivals, different events, different times of the year, and I love the fact that our school and each instructor is participating in it to be able to show that we do care, and that's what we're there for, is to just show our involvement. And we hope that we can have everyone else join in.
It's a real sense of community.
Yeah, exactly, just the community environment. It's nice to work with other schools as well, all together. It just shows it's a time where everyone gets together, is able to share different ideas through brainstorming, creating ways to sort of just make a better Koh Tao.
We got to the first cage and we brought it up. I felt really angry at fishermen, angry at seeing this cage down, angry at the diver from the fisherman boat that brought that cage down. But as they opened the cage and we opened the cage and seeing all those fishes swimming out, I was really happy. So I felt really mixed feelings. I was angry but really happy.
action we take has a reaction. Each decision, small or large, affects what is available to us.
Take care to try to support other businesses that do marine conservation activities, or at least have some kind of environmental awareness going on. You know, the resort that you stay in, the dive school that you dive at, the restaurants that you eat. You know, just try to educate yourself a little bit, and it's not too difficult. You know, you can usually get a sense or feeling about the places that are doing something and the ones that actually don't care too much.
What's the sensation like of opening the cages from this morning?
Well, it was a very weird sensation because it was the first time I actually got to see cages with fish inside. So it was very heartbreaking when we got there, especially yesterday, because the cage was like filled up with fish, completely full. Lots of rabbit fish, and there was also 3 stingrays in that and 6 pufferfish. That was very heartbreaking, and then they eventually brought the cage up so they could show the film crew and everything, and seeing the cage out of the water was really like unbearable. Caroline and I were like, get it back down in the water! And then just getting it up and seeing the fish escape was very cool.
How about today? Because I saw you cut the cage open and there's a Kobe shootout after.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I was like, he was turning around and I kept opening up, and he must have been scared because we're all around the cages, and then he just shoot up right at me and was like, hey, bye buddy, have fun.
So like, good day?
Good day, amazing day.
For myself, I've gained a lot of respect for the fishermen that do these jobs. It's a very dangerous job, what they're doing. But also the fact that when we go and look at these cages, they're full of fish, but most of them are not the fish you see in the market. And when they pull these cages up, all of those fish die. So I think everybody needs to remember, when you're ordering fish on a menu that's come from the ocean, although you're only eating one fish, many other fish had to die in order to get you that fish. And a lot of them may have been stingrays and phobias and other top predators or keystone species on the reef, which are perishing needlessly, and something that's affecting our tourism industry as well as the health of our oceans globally. And I think it's very important for people to remember how fishing industry works and where their food comes from.
You're not allowed not to know. All the information is there. There's people there happy to tell you, teach you, do a course, do something. But you have no right not to know what's going on.
เมื่อกี้ผมก็ได้คุยกับทางกัปตันเรือแล้วนะครับว่าต่อไปอนาคตข้างหน้าอย่าได้มาทำประมงในบริเวณของเกาะเต่าอีกนะครับแล้วก็จะมีการประสานความร่วมมือระหว่างหน่วยงานของรัฐนะองค์การบริหารส่วนตำบลเกาะเต่านะอำเภอสวนหน้าเจ้าหน้าที่ประมงปราบปรามทางทะเลนะครับกำนันผู้ใหญ่บ้านแล้วก็ชาวบ้านเกาะเต่าซึ่งจะต้องมีการประชุมนะครับมีการประชุมแล้วก็ระดมความเห็นในการป้องกันทรัพยากรของเราอันมีค่าอย่างนี้นะครับไม่ให้ถูกทำลายนะครับโดยจะมีการประสานไปยังประมงจังหวัดชุมพรช่วยประชาสัมพันธ์ให้เราด้วยว่าให้ผู้ประกอบการชาวประมงจังหวัดชุมพรที่เข้ามาทำประมงในบริเวณเกาะเต่านะครับจะต้องรักษานะกฎกติกานะกฎหมายของกลุ่มประมงด้วยนะครับแล้วก็ให้เห็นอกเห็นใจชาวเกาะเต่าด้วยนะครับเพราะเป็นทรัพยากรที่เรากำลังอนุรักษ์อยู่นะครับตรงนี้แล้วก็ขอขอบคุณไปยังประมงแล้วก็พี่น้องชาวประมงจังหวัดชุมพรทุกท่านนะครับให้ความร่วมมือกับเราด้วยนะครับขอบคุณตรงนั้นด้วยนะครับ
Again, it's about awareness, education, Paddy Project Aware, to use one. Again, dropping upon there, but it is the World Awareness, Aquatic World Awareness Responsibility and Education Project. We've done for years. It's about learning about it, watching more information, maybe watching some stuff on TV, getting onto the internet, getting involved in forums and groups. But at the end of the day, it boils down to the same old story. You've got to put your hand in your pocket and put your money where your mouth is, because you can do forever. Without the cash, nothing's going to get done. And get involved with websites. Save the forest, save the bears, save the tigers, save the whales, save the dolphins, save the sharks. You've got to get involved in this technological age now. There's no fucking excuse for it. You can go on the internet, Skype it, .com it, slash it, Facebook it, Twitter it, whatever you want to do to it. And anyone can know within a second what's in your mind. Everyone can get connected, everyone can get involved in it. And it's to get that message out, that come on world, look, it's a time bomb waiting to go off, and you can't keep living like you're living in the first world because you're fucking everything up. and you've got to get involved. Sign your name, put the money in, get the petition, go to the politician, and just get involved, and it'll work.
Yeah?
The Earth is the only home we have.
It's the only home we have. A bit like Kermit the Frog. Silly. And then we'll try another bit. Only we can make changes.
Only we can make changes. Only we can make changes.
And should we do that bit together? Should we see if we can do those two bits together?
First I'm gonna zip up his Franklin's mouth.
Okay. Quiet on set. Quiet on set.
Quiet, Franklin.
Okay, so I'm going to say it first, and then if you can say it for me.
Yeah.
And then we might let Franklin say it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I'll unzip his mouth.
Yeah.
I'll hold his zipper.
Hold his zipper for now, and then when he's ready to say it, we'll let the zipper go. Yeah? Cool. Alright, the Earth is the only home we have. Only we can make the changes.
The Earth is the only home we have.
It's alright, don't worry.
Remember the other one.
Only we can make changes.
Only we can make changes.
Yeah. Shall I say it again?
Yeah.
Okay. The Earth is the only home we have. Only we can make changes.
The Earth is the only home we have. Only we can make changes.
Excellent. Is Franklin going to do it?
The Earth is the only home we have.
Only we can make changes.
Only we can make changes.